Trains. I personally never understood the obsession that people have with them. The closest I ever got to understanding that was being paid to watch Dinosaur Train, which is exactly as epic as it sounds. I barely know how a car works, so wrapping my head around the logistics of a train and what needs to be done to keep up with its maintenance sounds like the perfect recipe for me to get some nap time in. So imagine my surprise when I decided to download the game Last Train Home during the previous Steam Next Fest, only to realize that I refused to put it down. So, all aboard as we take a look at Last Train Home and see if it's something you should pick up when it releases later this month. The Great War is over. The fight continues. Developed by Ashbourne Games and published by THQ Nordic, Last Train Home sees you take command of a legion of Czechoslovak soldiers desperately trying to make their way home amidst the chaos of a civil war. I know history isn't exactly fun to some, but some historical context is needed as, even as a history nut, I felt like I knew nothing about the scenario in which this game takes place. Although massively glossing over a lot, the gist is that during World War I, Czechs and Slovaks formed a battalion and were attached to the Russian Third Army. The intent of assisting the Russians was to create a state independent from Austria-Hungary. Finding a good amount of success, things looked very promising for the Legion. However, once the Bolsheviks seized power and negotiated Russia out of World War I, the Legion was now trapped deep in Russian territory, needing to vacate as soon as possible. Quick, here's a map of Russia. Point out where Vladivostok is at. Wrong. Unless you were right, congratulations. It is over here. The Legion had negotiated safe passage to this faraway port city where they would be transported to Western Europe to continue the fighting. The issue that arises is the civil war in Russia between the Red and White armies, and this is when Last Train Home takes place. Mistrust arises between all parties involved as you seek to escape a country that during a 5-year tumultuous period would see casualties in the low estimate at around 7 million, most of which were civilians.
We must deal with all of this to get home. In particular, we must deal with the Reds.
Now that we got the historical context out of the way, what exactly will you be doing when you play Last Train Home? There are 2 different styles of gameplay that you will experience during your time playing. As you make your way through Russia via train, you must manage your crew's morale and comfort as well as the maintenance of the train itself. This requires you to send out your crew to salvage what they can from nearby points of interest. Occasionally, you will have a mission that requires you to do some fighting. There are multiple classes for your crewmates that each have their own specialties, and it is up to you to order them across the battlefield in an RTS style. I am much more of a fan of turn-based strategy, however given the context of the game, I think it's important to keep it in RTS style as you can always feel like you're scrambling just to get to the end, not unlike what probably occurred. It also looks like you're going to have to make some big decisions that will heavily influence the outcome of your journey, although I must admit I never really put these to the test.
We also discovered a warehouse with a supply of food and fuel. We took as much as we could carry and hurried back to the safety of our armored train.
I will say that sometimes it's a lot to handle at once, but if you can manage it all, then you will get to enjoy all that this game has to offer. Between the individual personalities of your crew, the moral decisions you must make, and just the overall desire to make it to your destination leads me to believe that Last Train Home is a game you can't miss. It is set to release on November 28th, and it is an easy recipient of the Procyon seal of approval. The demo's still up, so why don't you go ahead and check it out as you are the only hope for the Last Train Home.
Keep going, or the suffering and loss of all those under your command will have been in vain. This is your last train home.
Thank you to my Patreon subscribers Relativity and Naughty Dog is King, as well as everyone who supports me by subscribing. I've only got a few weeks before the end of the year, so I'll try to make some sort of new video to cap it all off, but that'll be it for now. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and as always, be kind to one another.